The expansion of the BRICS is very helpful for the BRICS countries, but also, in my view, for the world. What we're seeing with the BRICS is the formation of a truly multilateral world. And we're seeing, because of the actions of the BRICS, the determination of the BRICS countries to say, look, we subscribe to the UN Charter, but not to the unilateral pressure of the United States or a few countries. And I think this is a correct approach. With more countries joining in, basically there will be more opportunity for an emphasis on peaceful, sustainable development, on cooperation of new financial flows, a new monetary approach as well. And while my hope always is that the world hangs together and doesn't simply fall into competing blocks, because that is very dangerous, I think the BRICS can be a stepping stone to a true global system, but a truly multipolar system, not the kind of US-led system that the United States has perceived for decades and is an idea that is way out of date. It was never really applicable, but it's certainly far from reality now.
What do you think, Professor Sachs, of the concerns some expressed about the nature of BRICS, whether it is a mechanism that is providing alternative, but at the same time, how to make sure it is not going to be a mechanism that is literally anti-West, or even more importantly, not being labeled as anti-West?
Well, I think the problem here is the U.S., for example, is, without any hiding it, anti-Russia, okay? It's not even close. The rhetoric out of the United States is literally defeat Russia on the battlefield. There's ugly rhetoric out of Europe, divide Russia into little pieces and so forth. I think from Russia's point of view, the BRICS is partly a solution to this, frankly, which is like-minded countries, very significant, very substantial, that have friendly relations and that want to handle matters not on the battlefield, but actually collegially and even finding common solutions to what has been a lot of bullying by the U.S. Now, I use these terms because though I'm an American, I've been saying to American government officials for decades, if you want other countries to use the US dollar, don't bully them, don't confiscate their currencies, don't freeze their reserves. And so what I'm saying is something I've been saying for a long time, which is that in a way, the US is pushing lots of the rest of the world together. It's not that they're coming together intrinsically in an anti-Western way. It's that the US is putting sanctions all over the world. It's sanctioning a tremendous number of countries, dozens of countries. It vastly exaggerates its power, and it applies sanctions that the UN General Assembly has said for many decades are simply illegal, because sanctions should be approved by the UN or not used in this coercive manner. So I believe that the BRICS is, as long as the BRICS continue to say, which they have been saying, and I really call on them to continue to say it, that they stand for the UN Charter, that they stand for multilateralism, that they stand for peaceful cooperation. It's not fair to call them anti-Western. What they are is anti-coercion by the West. That's a quite different thing.
Professor, on the other hand, we also see some economies and countries interested in joining the BRICS or coming into the conversation of BRICS. However, we see some of them yet to make their commitment, even though they are some of the largest economies and emerging economies in the world. So how do you see this shall I say, hesitancy, as some describe, among some of the countries about the nature of BRICS and whether they want to be part of it?
Well, part of it is the hesitancy comes from U.S. pressure directly. Don't join the BRICS. And so countries that are part of traditional U.S. security relations, for example, are being told, under no uncertain terms should you join the BRICS. And so that's where hesitancy comes from. They may feel that this is a good deal, that they want closer relations with China, that they want an expanded relationship, for example, with the Belt and Road Initiative, which I regard as an extremely positive and important global development initiative. And countries are benefiting from that close relationship with China. So they want to be part of the BRICS, but the United States often is saying, don't do that, that's against us, and so forth. Well, the main argument that is pushing many countries in the other direction is the kind of hostility and, I'm sorry to say, arrogance that has come from the US and its allies, from NATO, for example, for a long time. NATO's doctrine, its literal doctrine, Article 10 of the NATO Treaty, for example, on NATO expansion, is that NATO expansion is not the business of any third country. So if the US wants to expand NATO into Ukraine, it's literally under NATO doctrine, no business of Russia, even though it's all about Russia and it's on Russia's border. Well, that's a kind of arrogance or hubris that has led to this enormous backlash. Countries that are aiming to join the BRICS feel that they're not even listened to, and they face heavy costs from the US and its allies who take measures that are against their interests, that are even dangerous for them. They tell these other countries, don't trade with Russia, for example. And these countries say, but we have normal relations with Russia. The United States says, no, we will sanction you, we will punish you, we will cut off your banks, and so forth. That actually doesn't work. But that kind of bullying pushes other countries to want to join the BRICS.
Professor, I remember dearly recently you had a debate with Professor Mearsheimer. You are coming in from the political economic scholar's perspective, while he is more focusing on geopolitics and also diplomacy. You argued in your discussion that it can be a win-win situation among countries. Not necessarily one has to be the loser while the others will be the winner. Now, having said that though, how about the BRICS? We see earlier, BRICS have chosen a road more on energy, financial, trade, and economic cooperation. Cultural exchanges, people-to-people exchanges, certainly as well, but not necessarily focusing much on geopolitics and security issues. What do you make of, Professor, of the strategic choices that BRICS made earlier about the spheres of the efforts it is concentrating on? And what do you make of the future that BRICS should and can stick to?
Look, I hope that when it comes to security, we actually keep the great security issues at the UN, in the UN Security Council, in the UN treaties, in the nuclear arms control framework treaties, which are UN treaties. I think it would be extremely dangerous the more we fall into military blocs. We know that such military alliances in modern history, for example, in 1914, went haywire. Countries were afraid or wanted to make preemptive actions, and suddenly there was essentially a global war. We need, at all costs, to avoid this kind of approach. I think the BRICS emphasis on payment systems, on finance, on trade, on scientific, technological, and academic, scholarly, and cultural exchange is wonderful. I think that the notion of keeping security in a UN context, but then making the UN effective, because it's not effective when the veto power really is a blockade to solutions, and in the end is a blockade even to real negotiations and deliberations. This is what I would hope for. So I really don't want to see, personally, I don't want to see the BRICS devolve into some kind of military alliance. My own view, which I state every day, is that the war in Ukraine could end in a day, today, if the United States would call off its plan to expand NATO. The war in the Middle East could end today if the UN Security Council would vote a sovereign state of Palestine as the 194th UN member state on the borders of the 4th of June, 1967. The risks in East Asia could end immediately if the United States would abide properly by the one China policy, and China and the United States would enter into normal diplomacy. All of these challenges that we face can be overcome. War is a disaster, obviously, and war between great powers is a threat to human survival in the nuclear age. So I don't want to see the BRICS become a military force. I don't think there's any intention of that. But at the same time, I would like to see a reinvigorated United Nations. Basically, the challenge is to solve all of these crises that we face diplomatically, to understand that they really are about politics. They really are about political decisions. They're susceptible of political compromise or political agreements, and war is not going to solve any of these issues, but war could escalate into complete global disaster. So that's my feeling. The BRICS is on the right course with the focus that it's taken.
BRICS matters to more people around the world than ever before. With expanded membership, greater diversity, broader representation, BRICS is becoming an increasingly important platform for multilateralism, making bigger contributions to global governance.
Join us at BRICS Summit 2024
for a grand roundtable with media leaders from all BRICS countries, in-depth conversations with newsmakers about the underlying currents shaping the world.
Cooperation in Transformation, our special production, BRICS Summit 2024. Professor, if you look at the members of BRICS now, 10, some of them are even could be described as among the least developed economies, while others are developing countries, emerging economies, and the list goes on. They're much more representing the map of the world these days, and they're coming from all continents. So how do you see this diversity now in terms of their ability to come to consensus on some of the important global governance issue, and especially the priorities of global governance issue?
Well, I think the diversity, first of all, reflects a global reality. But a most important point about economic development and economic diversity is that every country has the potential over the course of 30 or 40 years to go from a state of poverty to a state of high prosperity. China demonstrated that for the whole world between 1980 and 2020. 1980, perhaps 70% or 80% by some measures of the country lived below the poverty line. By 2020, poverty had been eliminated. It was 4 remarkable decades. Not every country is going to have China's tremendous success, but China showed that in 4 decades, it's possible to go from what was really a lot of poverty to what is an absolutely remarkable economy at the cutting edge of global technology. Now, you take a country like Ethiopia, a very poor country today, but a tremendous culture, a history that is more than 2,000 years old, by some measures 3,000 years old, a tremendous capacity for rapid economic development. I was in rural Ethiopia at the beginning of this year, and I was visiting farmers whose incomes had jumped enormously because they had electricity coming from a dam that China had helped to build, and they had transport to sell their goods to the Middle East by rail to Djibouti, which China had helped to build. So it was an absolutely powerful demonstration before my own eyes about how the Belt and Road Initiative and China's capacity to engage with other countries based on China's own experience of how you leapfrog, how you move forward very quickly in income levels if the infrastructure is correct, if the education system is upgraded. So to my mind, having the BRICS have this diversity is a strength. You take Egypt, it's got unique challenges, but it's a 5,000-year-old civilization. You have Ethiopia, it's a 3,000-year-old civilization. You have Iran, Persia in history, roughly 5,000 years old, also one of the oldest civilizations in the world. So this is not only a meeting of countries, it's actually a meeting of civilizations, something quite remarkable.
On the other hand, we also see pragmatic cooperation among members of the BRICS economies. We see energy trade has been increasing dramatically among the members. We also see that they are working on agricultural cooperation, even though not all of them are strong in agriculture competitiveness worldwide. While at the same time, we are seeing them doing cooperation in science and technological field as well. So how do you understand the necessity these days that economies are working together, trying to seek alternative ways to develop their future, especially at a time when economic realities are very uncertain?
Well, first, we need to say we are all globally facing some very, very serious ecological challenges that are sometimes pushed off the front page temporarily by the wars and the crises, but then come roaring back with the floods, with the droughts, with the coastal disasters that many, many countries are facing right now, including China, including Russia, including Brazil, including Iran, including Egypt and Ethiopia. This is the human-induced climate change. It is the ecological catastrophes. And there's no solution for these crises other than through a high level of global cooperation. And that cooperation needs to take many forms. One is cooperation regionally, so that the countries within a common geography, say East Asia and Southeast Asia, need to be working together to connect renewable energy and make a power system that goes beyond any one country. They also need to be globally cooperative, because some countries have technological solutions that can help to solve the problems of other countries, or some countries have the financing that can help to solve the problem of other countries. Right now, China has the world's largest capacity in the green technologies that we urgently need to implement to avoid catastrophic climate change. China is the world leader in photovoltaics. It's the world leader in wind power. It's the world leader in fourth generation nuclear power. It's the world leader in the hydrogen economy. It's the world leader in electric vehicles. It's the world leader in fast intercity electric rail and many other areas. Now, I say all of this, and by the way, add the digital, the 5G, what in China is already 5.5G for digital systems. Now, other countries need these technologies urgently. This is why the Belt and Road Initiative is so important. The United States in the past year came to say China has overcapacity in these areas. That's nonsense, frankly. China's capacity needs to be deployed not only in China, but actually in exporting these technologies to other countries so that they can transform their energy and their transport systems as well. There's no overcapacity. The world still lacks adequate capacity to make the dramatic changes that we need to make for climate safety. China's great capacity, which is the largest in the world, is therefore at the global service. And the BRICS will be a way to actually help to deploy this cutting edge technology across these countries, which together, as I say, are estimated to have about 46% of the whole world's population at this point. So this is a very good group that needs a lot of technological change, and China has a lot to offer. So do other BRICS countries as well. So I think the interaction within the BRICS will accelerate these green and digital transformations.
And finally, Professor Sachs, we understand that during the BRICS small group meeting and the large group meeting, together with the BRICS Plus meetings, crucial issues of international importance will be discussed among the leaders there. I'm sure the issues on the latest violence going on in the Middle East, particularly regarding Lebanon and Gaza, will be high on the agenda among the leaders. So what do you think can be the contribution the BRICS together can collectively provide to bring more opportunity for peace there?
What we need is a specific plan for peace. In the Middle East, I think it's really clear. We need a state of Palestine, according to international law, on the borders of the 4th of June, 1967, as the International Court of Justice has ruled. We're going to need UN-backed peacekeepers to keep the populations of both Palestine and Israel separated from each other. We're going to need the BRICS countries to say, yes, this is a two-state solution in which both states will end any kind of fighting, a state of belligerency will end, and both states will be secure, but secure within their borders.
Jeffrey Sachs, Professor, what a pleasure. As always, thank you.
Thank you. Great to be with you. I appreciate it.
That's my latest interview with Jeffrey Sachs on the ongoing BRICS Summit 2024. And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to know more, search World Insight or check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on X and Facebook. I'm Tian Wei. On behalf of my team here in Kazan and in Beijing, thanks for being with us, and I'll see you tomorrow in our special program, Cooperation in Transformation. Bye for now.